Well, good morning and welcome to Southwest Wildlife Foundation Enoch Wildlife Rescue Vlogmas. And as you see here, I've got one of my very best friends sitting here with me. This is Scout the Golden Eagle. And Scout is 20 years old and he's been a very, very dear friend for a very long time. I'm a pretty boy. And so we thought we'd bring him out and talk a little bit about eagles and a little bit how I got involved with the Eagles. And the story probably should begin um, with Bud. Most of you don't know who Bud is. And
Wait a minute.
Bud,
Wait a second. Two things. One, we want to do your number, and two, your. Can we tilt the angle a little bit down so we could see Scout's toesies?
yeah, I said it so we could go down a little bit. Is that good
Yeah,
enough?
that's. I think that's better. But do you want to talk about Bud first, or do you want to do your number thing first?
We can do it either way. We can choose a number if you want.
Are you sure? I mean, I don't want to, pull your leg. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Are you
No,
worried?
that's fine.
All right.
There
So
we
for day
go. Okay,
two, we're gonna do
are we
number
still live?
two. What?
We still live?
Yeah, I think so. Are you not
Okay,
seeing?
hope we're good. Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah. Grab a number.
Okay. Number two,
Number two.
we have got message from this person. I'm not sure how to say the name, so I won't say it. Message from L. Okay, and this message comes with a picture. Whoops, not that picture. Sorry, this picture.
Oh, with Helen and I on the computer.
Okay, and we got a note to explain it. This is from L. She says, "Hi, Web Geek. Wow, Go Wildlife Vlogmas. This is something to look forward to in the lead up to Christmas. But the best aspect is in knowing that Martin is well enough to take part in the project. I live in Queensland, Australia, so I won't be able to watch live because of the time difference, but will settle in with my morning cuppa and enjoy whatever is on to offer. I've attached a photo of Surrey, my oldest cat, transfixed by Martin and Helen during one of the videos. It was taken a few years ago. He's now still handsome 17-year-old who came to me as a stray. Feel free to use it if you think it's suitable." I think it's suitable. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for making it possible for Martin and Susan to share their love and care of critters with the global following. My best wishes to you and your family for a wonderful Christmas and New Year. Warm regards. But then a little bit later, she wrote again to add in, "I meant to include a question for Martin about the awesome new rescue center when I emailed you with the photo. This might be one that few people will ask. I realize that he'll continue to live at the house, but will Scout do a test flight to officially open the flight chamber?"
We haven't decided yet um, if that will be the case or not. Um, you know, the one of the biggest problems is Scout's used to going outside and flying free, and he's used to his chamber here at the house. And you put him to that new big chamber, he may fly around and be upset because it's a very unfamiliar environment for him. Now, with the wild eagles that we bring in, it's an unfamiliar um, environment for them, and so that's just what it's going to be. But Scout, I think, would prefer to hang out in his own chamber and then go out in the desert with me than just uh, go fly in the 100-foot chamber. So that's what we're going to go. And welcome from Australia. Um, your your eagle, the wedge-tailed eagle, is a golden eagle subspecies, very similar to Scout here. So thank you for the note.
And can we add, we've got stuff behind 5 of these, and I'm waiting so that we can get more people to send us even more. So if you've got a photo, question, comment, anything, please send it along. You can send it to webgeek@gowildlife.org.
Okay. Well, thank you much. So anyway, we're going to do that every day answer a question, pick a number, and so on to help answer all of you guys' questions. And of course, Scout, my very best friend and wildlife ambassador and hunting companion. It's a real privilege to sit here with him. But like I said, today I would like to talk a little bit about my previous eagle. His name was Bud, and Bud really kind of started the Wildlife Foundation. Um, in fact, I'm going to tilt this back up a little bit. The picture that's behind me that you guys have all seen, if you watched our videos, the picture, the name of the picture is The Understanding, with me standing there, nose to beak with my golden eagle Bud. And this picture was actually painted by one of my students, who was a falconry student, who was quite a well-known landscape artist. But I think this is the first time he actually did a portrait situation, and so he painted that picture, and I didn't know anything about it. We had a fundraiser here in Utah to help raise money for our wildlife rescue, and we had an art auction, and we invited many of the local artists to bring their artwork, and basically anything above the artist's fee would be a donation to our organization. And so Steve, who's the artist, he brought up half a dozen or more of his landscape artwork, and then he brought this out, and he says, I've been working on this, and it was a complete surprise to see that picture. And the picture, the base price for that picture was $5,000, and um, obviously, I couldn't afford $5,000 and that kind of stuff. Well, we had the art auction, and an architect, a big architect in Las Vegas, came up for the art auction, and he purchased that picture, and he paid the the 5,000 plus donation for that particular picture, and then he walked over and handed it to me and says, this belongs to you. And so that's how we ended up getting this enormous picture of Bud and myself that's hanging in my living room. And so it didn't have anything to do with a big ego or anything else. It was a gift, and I appreciate it. And it was actually one of the very first art gifts that have been passed along to us over the years. And in my office, I have about a dozen pieces of artwork, paintings, and wood sculptures, and wood burnings, and just all sorts of tapestries and crochet, and just things that people have done over the years that have they've given it to us as an appreciation for what we have done. And when we get to move into the new Enoch Wildlife Rescue, we're going to take a lot of those things and have them as the decorations in the new facility. So that my house is very small. We don't have room for all of the tremendous gifts that people have given us, and so we're looking forward to moving things into the new facility. But let's talk about Bud for a minute. Now, Bud's story is somewhat unique. Let me bring this down a bit so you can see more of Scout. There we go. Okay, Bud's story is a bit unique. I've always, ever since I was a very young child, had an absolute love and passion for eagles. Of all of the birds of prey, there's nothing more magnificent than an eagle, and the golden eagle is my favorite. They are the most intelligent, they're the most affectionate, can be the most gentle of all of the birds of prey if handled properly. If not handled properly, this is an 8-pound creature that will put you in the hospital on a regular basis. So you never want to offend your eagle. So anyway, I wanted as a master falconer, I wanted an opportunity to use a golden eagle in the ancient sport of falconry. Now, I have been rescuing sick, injured, and orphaned eagles for decades. In fact, I was the curator of birds of prey at a big zoo, and I had a golden eagle that was an educational bird that I got to fly and work with, plus all the wildlife rescues. So eagles have been a big part of my life, but I've never ever actually had, my eagle that I could claim as mine. They were always um, either belonging to the zoological facility that I worked at, or they were a rescue that the whole goal was to return them back to the wild. And especially with the wildlife rescue, we don't want to socialize them. I don't want to be sitting here with an eagle that I want to return back to the wild and make him my friend. I want them to hate people and get back to the wild and stay as far away from humans as possible. And so um, nearly 40 years ago, I started um, trying to legalize the use of eagles for falconry in North America. And at that point in time, there were laws on the books that would allow a qualified individual to fly an eagle in falconry, but the restrictions were so significant that nobody could qualify. And so, you know, going through all of the rules and regulations, I felt that I was qualified to do that. And so I filled out all the paperwork and sent it to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and to the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources and says, I believe that I meet all of the state and federal requirements to do this. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service would send me back a rejection letter saying that that's not, that you don't qualify. And then I would send them another letter saying, would you please justify the rejection of my request? And they would send me a list of things they believed I wasn't qualified for. Then I'd write them back again and says, here's your objections and here's my credentials and this is what I've done and I am qualified. And then they would send me back another rejection letter. With the federal government, it took me 4 years of working through the process until the federal government ran out of excuses to say no, because it was legal if you could meet the requirements. And I met the requirements. And then in the state of Utah, right up front in the state of Utah, eagles were prohibited to be used in falconry. And so in the state of Utah, not only did I have to be legally allowed by the federal government to fly an eagle for falconry, I actually had to change Utah law. And so I worked with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. Now it's the Utah now it's the DNR, Division of Natural Resources, um, and went through the same process: requesting, being denied, requesting, being denied. And I got all the way to the point of passing the state um, Division of Natural Resources and got to go before the Wildlife Board in the state of Utah. And so, you know, made my presentation to the Wildlife Board and explained what eagle falconry was and how it's been a very important piece of the history of falconry. And eagles have been used in falconry for thousands of years. And these are not dangerous animals if handled properly. And anyway, the long and short of it was that I made my presentation to the Wildlife Board. Um, the head biologist for at the time it was the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources made his presentation to the Wildlife Board, and the the Wildlife Board made their decision, and they basically on the spot they basically uh, called the state representative up and says, uh, we are legalizing the use of eagles for falconry, and the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources needs to write a set of regulations supporting our decision, and that you need to do that to the approval of Mr. Tyner. And so from that moment on, using a golden eagle in the ancient art of falconry was now legal in the state of Utah. And so I sat down with the DNR. I wrote the regulations and added it to the state regulations so that eagles can be used. And that's just the very beginning. Now that can legally have an eagle for falconry uh, recognized by both the state and federal government, now I have to acquire an eagle. And there's really only two ways that you can legally acquire an eagle for falconry. The first of which is the federal government gives you one. Now, if there is an eagle that, let's say, has been stolen from its nest, it's been heavily imprinted, if it's released back to the wild, it'll seek out human beings and can be a danger. That eagle can be given to a falconer so that the eagle can be exercised and can be worked with, but in a safe way. But that kind of an eagle can be quite dangerous even to the falconer. The second way to get an eagle legally for falconry is to trap a full-grown wild eagle that has been recognized as a depredation bird. Now, what that means is an eagle that a farmer feels is a threat to his livestock. And so the first thing that I have to do is find a farmer here in the state of Utah that is upset because he's got eagles hanging around his sheep farm, and that the farmer feels that the eagle is a threat, and the farmer wants to shoot the eagle. They want the eagle gone. And so I had, basically spent a great deal of time working within the agricultural community, trying to find a farmer that would accept my help in removing an eagle from a situation that he considered depredation. And then once I got that done, then I had to get the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the State Fish and Game to agree to allow me to trap the eagle for falconry, which at this point nobody in North America has ever been given a permit to do. And so, again, lots of paperwork, lots of correspondence back and forth to the federal government in Denver, Colorado, the state government in Salt Lake, and working through them. I was told by the regional director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service back then that that I will never have an eagle for falconry, not in this lifetime or the next. And there was a lot of barriers that were put up, but with a lot of consistency. And basically the three P's, which is I was polite, I was persistent, and I was patient. And just like before, they ran out of excuses to say no. And I was issued the very first depredation permit to trap an eagle for falconry in North America. Now, the eagle that I had located, the farm that I'd located was here in southern Utah. And so once I got all the permits, I actually had to have um, a government agent with me. And so I had to have, basically from the Department of Agriculture, I had to have their animal damage control agent with me when I trapped the eagle. And so he had to come out with me when I set up the trapping station. And it took me 2 weeks. And he was getting very upset because he had things to do. And just sitting, watching a trap station for 2 weeks, he was about to give up. And my eagle bud came into the trap station and we caught him. And so I, started up the truck and raced down the dirt road and got to the field, jumped over the fence and ran across the open field and tackled my eagle, got him under control, and got him released from the trap. And keep it on the plastic, sir. Thank you. That was very polite. And that was my first meeting with Bud. Once we got him, we sent out the request for the bands so I could put a federal marker on him to prove that he was legal, and then we start the process of of developing, the first time in my life, developing a friendship with my eagle. And so as we're working along here, and I get home, I tell my wife I'm not coming to work. Get one of our employees to come in and take my shift because we owned a pet store and a dog grooming shop, and I'm going straight home. And so I came straight home to my home here, and I had a room in my basement all set up with a little tiny television, and the window was blacked out so it could be dark, and I had just a very small light. And when I got home, I put the leather anklets and straps on him, and I had a hood on his head so that he was quiet and couldn't see. And then we sat down in a chair in my basement and turned the TV on, turned the light off with just the TV on so it was dark with just a little bit of light from the television. And we sat there, and I sat with my eagle this close to me, and I talked to him, and I soothed him, and I told him that I'm a really nice guy, and I'm going to take very good care of him, and it'll only be a very short period of time that you're going to be a captive eagle, and very soon you're going to go back in the wild and fly free. And I always had food on my glove for him, and what we're waiting for now is for my eagle to eat. Now, this is called a falconer's wake. And what that means is the falcon has to stay awake because I'm going to sit there quietly with this eagle until the eagle eats. And I sat there all day. And I sat there all night. And I sat there all the second day. And I sat there the second night. And I sat there a third day. And at the end of the third night, sitting there quietly with my eagle finally reached down and started to eat from my glove. And he was a little bit not trusting, but he did eat. And now I've overcome a great hurdle here. Now my eagle is starting to realize that I'm not going to hurt him and that I'm a really nice guy and here's food. And that is the basis for the relationship with my eagle. And so once he started eating well, it was time to put him out in his chamber, which is, his chamber is 10 feet by 20 feet. And I would go out every day and spend a few hours and sit quietly with him. And I'd have food for him. And my eagle got pretty comfortable with the idea that here's the human, he's coming out, he's feeding me, it's a comfortable environment, fresh, big bath pan with fresh water, and this is not bad. This is not a bad situation. And then after a couple of weeks, I did the most horrible thing to my eagle. I walked into his chamber, and I have food on my glove, and I says, Bud, here's your breakfast. And my eagle looked at me and says, bring it here, because he's used to me walking right up and having him step on my glove and hand feed him. And I says, no, Bud, you have to jump from your perch 1 foot to my glove. That's all, just 1 foot, and I'll give you your breakfast. And my eagle looked at me like, what? You want me to do something? For the last couple of weeks, all of my meals have been free. Now you want me to step up on your glove, a little tiny jump? I'll assure you that there's no 2-year-old on the planet that can throw a tantrum better than my eagle. He flapped his wings, he stomped his feet, And he threw this terrible tantrum. And like any good parent would do, I just says, well, that's fine. And when you're done throwing your tantrum, you jump to my glove and I will feed you. For which he did. And then from that point on, we started to extend the distance from a foot to 3 feet to 6 feet to 10 feet to the length of his chamber to the length of my backyard. And once he was flying the length of my backyard for food, now it is time to take my eagle back out on the desert where he came from. And all of this comes off. He is now free to fly away and never come back. That is now his choice. So we put him on a fence post. And I walk about 10 feet away from him. And I blow his whistle because every time I fed him, I blew his whistle. That's the dinner bell. And I blow his whistle. And my eagle looks at me. And he flies the 10 feet, lands on my glove. And he starts to eat his breakfast. That's his very, very first free flight. Now, what I've explained to you, if done properly and you dedicate the appropriate amount of hours, takes about a month. From the time he's literally wild and freshly trapped to the time that he is completely free and can fly away and never come back, about a month. And so once we got Bud flying free, then the most magical time of my life started. And that was that I could take my eagle, we could go out on the desert virtually every day, and I would turn him loose. He'd fly up to a fence post, he'd fly up to a ridge or something along those lines, and I'd blow the whistle, he'd fly back to me, I'd give him a little bit of food, and he'd take off and fly around, and I'd blow the whistle, he'd come back for a little bit of food, and it was amazing to take these beautiful evening walks out on the desert as the sun is starting to set, and it's warm but not hot, and light breeze, and it's just the most beautiful weather, and to be in this wild environment with a wild eagle is becoming my best friend. And so we got him out and got him flown, and he was having a wonderful time out there on the desert. Like I said, flying free, soaring the ridges north of town, flying with the wild eagles, and then I would have my flushing stick and I would beat the bushes trying to flush out rabbits for him. And then one day, after many, many, many attempts, he catches his first wild rabbit. And again, that is a feeling deep in my heart that I will never forget. Is everything that we've done, all of my practice and skills in falconry has come to the point where I now not only have a wild eagle that is my friend that will follow me and flush with me, but will actually work with me and hunt with me. And my childhood dream has now come true. And so Bud and I were together for 16 years. Bud and I traveled throughout the Western United States doing school programs and scout programs and community event programs, very much the same as Scout and I do. Bud was a wonderful wildlife ambassador as well as a dear friend. And I was did a television shoot up in Montana for Animal Planet with my eagle, and and we were just having this amazing friendship and relationship. We'd been together, like I said, for 16 years, and one day something wasn't quite right. Monday morning, we got up and I went and talked to Bud, and he just wasn't quite there. There wasn't anything really wrong, but he just wasn't quite there. And so I came back about midday, and he just wasn't didn't seem to be feeling really well. I couldn't put my finger on it. There was something not quite right. Um, then by the next day he was sicker. The third day he was even sicker. He started to become sick on Monday, and by Friday he was dead. He had been bitten by a mosquito, and he came down with West Nile. My dear friend, for 16 years I've saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of eagles, and I couldn't save Bud. And West Nile causes a swelling in the brain. In adult eagles, it was virtually 100% fatal. And I spent the last few days with him in the house, down in the basement, in the room where we started, and trying to keep him comfortable. Yes. And even to this day, it breaks my heart. Well, after Bud passed away, I got a notification from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that there was an eagle up in Wyoming that a farmer wanted to get a permit to shoot because he thought the eagle was a threat to his livestock. And so I got all the paperwork and permits put in, and I ran up to Wyoming and talked to the farmer and talked to the Wyoming Fish and Game and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources and Department of Agriculture and everybody else, and got everybody to agree. And I went up to trap Scout. And it took me a little more than a week. Yes, it did. A little more than a week to set up the trapping station and to get him to come in to where I could catch him. And so once we trapped Scout, we had to go to the Wyoming Fish and Game and get them to recognize, yes, here's an eagle, and yes, we've done this legally and all that. Had to get permission from the state of Utah to import him into the state. Had to get Department of Agriculture on board. Had to get the vet health checks and everything else. And we got Scout brought down to Enoch, and we started the process all over again. After 16 years, it was now time to do this a second time. And so Scout is now 20 years old. I believe we've been together for 17 years, if I remember correctly. And again, a very, very dear friend. We have to watch very carefully. West Nile is still an issue. It is, isn't it, big guy? But so far, so good. And though Scout was never meant to replace Bud, Scout is my dear friend in his own right. And so we came up with this idea on how to get a name for Scout. What are we going to call him? What is my eagle's name going to be? And so what we did is we had a Name the Eagle contest here locally. I was doing a Boy Scout jamboree, and we had a bottle that people could write names and drop in the bottle, and so people around the community could vote on the name for the new eagle. And my goal was to find a name for my new eagle that is not what an eagle is. I wanted to find a name that was unique, that would describe what an eagle could become. And so going through all of the names, one name came up 4 times out of maybe 200 or 300 names. Came up 4 times, and um, and it was perfect. See, Bud and I had traveled the country doing, like I said, school programs, scout programs. One of the most important programs that we would do with my Golden Eagle Scout, or Bud, was Boy Scout Eagle Courts of Honors. And so we'd go all over the country, and we'd go to the Boys Courts of Honors. And during the Court of Honor, I would bring the eagle out, and I'd stand up and I would tell everybody about the qualities of an eagle and what an Eagle Scout should be. And then I'd put my eagle back away, and then when the Court of Honor was over, I'd bring the eagle back out to let people get pictures of the eagle and visit and answer questions. And it kind of dawned on me, my friend, my eagle, Bud, we had traveled the country to encourage young men to become eagles. And a scout, the scout law is that a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. They're the 12 scout laws. Can you imagine? I still remember that from my days as a scout. That shows how deeply scouting has ingrained in me personally. And as I was thinking about the names for my eagle, I saw the name Scout, and I thought, I've traveled the country encouraging young men to become Eagle Scouts. And my eagle, Bud, was trustworthy. He was loyal. He was helpful. He was friendly. He was courteous. He was kind. He was obedient. You know, in a real sense, my first Eagle Scout, or Bud, became a scout. And so I couldn't think of a better name than to name this eagle, my friend here, to name him Scout. And he truly has become everything that a scout should be. And so he and I have been together our entire lives. So for the last, like I said, 17 years, he has been my best friend. And to have the privilege of sitting here right now with my friend sitting here on my arm, this close, to feel his friendship is an honor that I will never take lightly. This is who I am, and Scout is a major part of making me the human that I am, and Bud as well. So that's my story of Bud and how we got Scout.
So we're coming up on 38 minutes, and did we want to talk about the logo, Scout's bio, and what Scout was doing before we went live?
Yes. Well, the logo, and DG can bring up our logo. This logo is the logo for Southwest Wildlife Foundation, Enoch Wildlife Rescue. And the picture on that logo was a painting that was done by a local artist here in southern Utah, and he painted that as a gift for me, and gave me that picture. It's one of the most beautiful paintings of an eagle I've ever seen. It's anatomically very correct, and so when we were looking for a logo for the foundation, we chose Bud as our to represent the foundation and the work that we do. So anytime you see that logo, you are looking at Bud, the golden eagle. And his bio.
That's Scout's bio?
Yes, Scout's bio. And I pretty much covered, like I said, he is, he was a couple years old when we trapped him. He is 20 years old now. The average life of a golden eagle in the wild is about 20 years. So as a wild eagle, he's an old man. But in captivity, we can as much as triple that. So he could live as much as 60 years in captivity. So he still has a long life ahead of him with us as my falconry bird and as one of my wildlife ambassadors. Now, Scout's a very large male golden eagle. Um, Bud, on the other hand, was a very small male golden eagle. Bud flew at about 5.5 pounds. Scout flies at a little over 8 pounds, so he's quite a bit larger and quite a bit more powerful. Now, Bud being smaller was a little more agile, so he's actually a better hunter than what Scout is, because the bigger they are, their agility, their roll rate is far slower, and so he isn't quite as good of a hunter for catching things like rabbits, but he has this magnificent personality, and he has this playfulness that is almost hard to understand. For many years, I wore glasses because my eyesight was going as I was getting older, and I had cataract surgery about 3 years ago, and so I don't wear glasses anymore. But every time I do a show, I take my glasses off and put them in my pocket and talk to the audience. And Scout would like to reach into my pocket, grab my glasses, and throw them out to the audience, and then look at me with a big grin on his face. And yes, eagles can smile. So it's a little hard for most people to understand, but they get this glimmer in their eye, and that's their smile. And you can tell that he's being very, very mischievous. And so he really loves to tease me. And today we're in my house. You can see, off over my right shoulder here, you can see his transport kennel. So I had him sitting in there before we started the program. And in his kennel, there was a little bit of fine gravel in the bottom of his kennel, just from sitting outside and the wind blowing, dirt and gravel and stuff in there. And I brushed it out, but there's a little bit of gravel left in his box. And so I brought him in here, and he was just fine. He's sitting in his box here. I don't think he liked the idea that I interrupted his breakfast, because he was having breakfast when I went and got him. And so, he's sitting in his box, and then all of a sudden we hear this little weird sound, something hitting the floor. And I look over, and I can't hear anything, and I hear a little more clicky stuff hitting the floor, and I look over, and I didn't see anything. And then I looked at the floor, and I see little tiny bits of gravel on the floor. And what it was, keep it on the plastic, sir. Thank you. And what it was is he was trying to get my attention by picking up little bits of gravel in his mouth and throwing them out the side window of his box. And so, again, being silly, being very mischievous, having just this amazing personality. And I've had the blessings to have been able to do this twice with two different eagles, and I'm so grateful for those opportunities.
So we've got a couple of questions about Scout, if you want to
Sure.
for a minute. Well, first, would teal here be a meal or a snack?
Teal would be a meal.
Okay.
Teal's about the size of a rabbit, and though an eagle could not eat an entire jackrabbit, they can certainly eat most of it.
Okay.
An eagle could consume a whole cottontail. And to be honest with you, people talk about eagles swooping down, carrying off sheep, cows, and children. That doesn't happen, because this eagle, which is a very large eagle, male golden, he can only carry about 2 pounds of weight into flight. And the average weight of a full-size jackrabbit is like 8 pounds. And so if he's sitting on the road eating a dead rabbit off the road, he can eat so much food he can't fly. And so the number one injury to eagles is being hit by cars. And so we try to encourage everybody, please, when you're out in the agricultural areas, when you're out in good eagle country, watch a long distance down the road ahead of you. And if you see birds on the road, start slowing down. Because if you see a bunch of ravens or something on the road, there's a very good chance in the midst of all those ravens is a golden eagle, and the ravens can get off the ground much quicker than the eagle can. You're going down the road 70 miles an hour or so. The ravens blast out, the eagle can't get off the ground, and the eagle goes through your windshield. You end up with a broken car, I end up with a broken eagle. And so the number one injury to eagles here in North America are being hit by cars because they are very slow to get off the ground. And so if you would like to save an eagle's life, please, when you're out in the agricultural areas or out on the desert, watch ahead of you and please slow down.
Okay. KB asks, what is Scout's heart rate?
What is Scout's heart rate? I don't know. I know it's quite a bit faster than a human's, but quite a bit slower than a hummingbird. And so the smaller the animal, the faster the heart rate. And so I haven't been asked that question in a very long time. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Emily asks, do you think in the next couple of years, Scout will begin to lose the strength and endurance to survive in the wild? Apologies if this question has been asked.
Will he lose his strength and endurance to survive in the wild? Yes. Yes. When you have to make your living exclusively on your physical fitness, um, as a human being, when we're in our 20s, we do really well, but by the time we get to 40, our fitness level has gone down enough that if we had to survive in the wild, we wouldn't survive. And so an eagle at 10 years old, its fitness level is very high and it does quite well. When they hit 20, the rabbits just seem to run faster every year because the eagle's fitness levels start to deteriorate, and that's very common. Now that is why um, in the wild, the average life expectancy of a golden eagle is about 20 years, but in captivity with me, he can live as much as 60 years because he doesn't have to rely on exclusively his fitness in order to survive, because we can go out and he can fly, and if he doesn't catch a rabbit, fine. I feed him anyway, we go home. It doesn't matter if he catches a rabbit or not. Where in the wild, he doesn't have that option.
Okay, so we're at about 47 minutes in, and we do got a little bit of like web geek stuff to do. The first thing is that we've got a fundraiser going on with this live stream that's currently at $612, even though we haven't said a thing about it.
Well, absolutely. You guys are so kind and so generous to us, and we appreciate that. And so we are doing a little fundraiser, kind of a tie-in for the foundation for Christmas, and December 9th is my birthday, and December 16th is Susan's birthday. So it's kind of a joint, birthday Christmas fundraiser for our wildlife foundation, um, and because of the fundraisers that you guys have done over the years, like I said, as we said in the last one, we were able to purchase a car to help us with our transportation needs, and we're building this brand new Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center, and as we continue to raise money, there's a lot of things we need to do um, at the center to basically get it fully stocked with everything that we need. And so, you know, your kindness and generosity means the world to us. And without you guys, there's just no way that we could do the work that we do. And we're so thank you for everything that you guys have done.
So we should probably add that down in the description box for this video. We've got the revised Amazon wish list that Susan recently updated with a bunch of the stuff for the new center. And also, if anybody wants to help us, we're in the need of a big Mongo drive for all of our tons of video content. So if you'd like to help out with that, we can't put it on Amazon because we can't get it there, but just send me an email and we'll work it out. We might do like a few people or whatever. So just contact me if you'd like helps out with a huge video solution. And other than that, What do you think, Martin? Should we call it a day?
Yeah, we have to agree with DG. Um, I think by last count, it was like over 400, nearly 500 videos that we have produced, that we have put out for everyone to see the work that we do and enjoy our videos. And that takes a huge, huge amount of data storage. And so, yeah, we are in need of a large hard drive that can help us store all of that information. So, yeah, DG, thank you for mentioning that. Well, everybody, from my dearest friend Scout, and from myself and all of the rest of us here at the Enoch Wildlife Rescue, thank you so much, and we'll be back tomorrow. Again, we're going to do this little vlog, up until December 24th. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.